Na 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 na.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to another exciting episode of Vin Plays Yahoo Fantasy Football. This is our Week 6 recap show, and as you could see by the score, we are going to have a very sad recap here. We got absolutely stomped this week, Week 6. We got stomped pretty badly. Well, you know what? Actually, I don't think stomped is the appropriate word. Von like Donkey Kong actually underperformed a bit by projections. We just laid a big fat turd. Just a lot of our players just totally and completely underperformed. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting off with Aaron Rodgers here. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers got absolutely destroyed by Tampa Bay. During the first quarter, things looked like they were going as usual for the Green Bay Packers. They're moving the ball during that first drive. Aaron Rodgers actually, ran in the ball for a touchdown, well, seemingly touchdown, which they took away because they said he was down because he gave himself up. His knee was down before he broke the plane, apparently. Even though nobody touched him while he was on the ground, I guess it was one of those special quarterback rules. So. But yeah, he was moving the ball well, but then after that drive, they got totally shut down by Tampa Bay. It actually really reminded me of last year's Packers. I think there's a possibility that this year's Packers, like they might have been exposed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during this game because they looked like the Packers of last year. It's because if we look at the game logs here, other than New Orleans, the Packers have had a pretty easy schedule so far. And Green Bay's biggest holes last year were the run game defense and wide receivers, basically. Aaron Rodgers would have all the time in the world to throw, but none of his receivers could get open, essentially, other than Devonta Adams, but defenses could clamp down on Devonta Adams. But other than New Orleans, the hardest team that they've faced so far is Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay just totally destroyed them. So I'm starting to worry just a little bit that maybe Green Bay has been exposed a bit, and that they did take Love, the quarterback, in the first round, and then they took a running back in the second round. They didn't address those weaknesses that they had last year, and this may very well be the fruits of those decisions. They didn't plug up any of their holes from last year, so we'll just have to keep an eye out for that. They're still a good team. It's just whether or not they're a great team, and that's a question for me right now. But as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, he has Houston next week, or this coming week, Week 7, and then Minnesota, and then there's a tricky spot in San Francisco because their defense is pretty good despite all of their injuries. San Francisco still has a pretty good defense. For the next 2 games, I'm not going to worry too much about Rodgers, but as far as future matchups, I'll talk about a little bit more when we get to the waivers, but I'm not 100% convinced now that we can just leave Rodgers in our starting lineup. We might have to consider streaming for some of these tougher matchups, like against San Francisco, and then we have Indiana. Chicago and Philadelphia aren't great matchups either. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on here. Allen Robinson did all right. He did perform under expectations, but we kind of expected it since he was playing. Who was he playing in? Carolina. Well, they have a decent defense in Carolina. It's not great. It's more like, I want to say, average defense. This happens with Allen Robinson here and there, and most great wide receivers actually this happens with. So I'm not too surprised here. I'm not too worried with Allen Robinson. Devonta Adams, that first drive he was catching passes, and 9-10 points isn't bad, but yeah, we really did expect more out of all the Packers, really, out of Devonta Adams and Aaron Rodgers here. They just really laid the biggest turd this weekend. So yeah, at 9 points, it's fine. That's a solid floor. As far as the Packers are concerned, they couldn't have played much worse during this game. So, 9 points as a floor for Devonta Adams, I'm completely. I'm totally fine with that. Mostert, oh man, it was so sad with Mostert. He ended up actually spraining his ankle here. He has a high ankle sprain, and I read actually that they're putting him there. He is likely going to IR. I was watching this game, and Mostert, he was just a beast. He was taking all of the carries. He looked really good. He was fast, but yeah, he ended up getting hurt. It's really, really sad to see. So it looks like he's going to be going onto IR. We could consider picking up Jerick McKinnon, and actually Mikhail Hasty is the guy that picked up most of the work, I believe, after Mostert went down. So we'll have to consider that. I probably won't pick up any of them, just considering how deep my bench is with running backs. But actually, I'll talk about that a little bit about that later. My bench actually exploded, well, semi-exploded this week. So let's go ahead and keep going. Antonio Gibson, oh man, this was kind of disappointing. He had a good matchup against New York, but from everything that I'm reading, he split touches between him and McKissick. So right now it's almost looking like they have a pretty even split, which is not good for Antonio Gibson. It's a little bit puzzling because a few weeks ago, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, it looked like anyways, he was taking over that backfield, and they were giving him like a ton of carries, and he was catching balls. But as of right now, last couple of games anyways, it looks like that they're really working in McKissick in the passing game, and mostly when they're behind. So when they're playing catch up, they tend to lean on McKissick rather than Antonio Gibson, which is not good, and that is not going to be a great game script moving forward, because Washington, as awful as they are, with Keenan Allen as a starting quarterback, well, no great options at quarterback anyways, because they have Keenan Allen, they have the recovering shadow of Alex Smith, and then they have Dwayne Haskins, who for the last couple of games they haven't even had on their active rosters. He was a healthy scratch. So considering how bad that team is, yeah, they're going to be behind more times than not in most games. So if Antonio Gibson isn't on the field when they're behind, that is not going to look good for him or his fantasy value. He will not be putting up points if this continues for much longer. But let's go ahead and go on. Okay, here we go. Here's another donut. Mike Gesicki. Like, oh my goodness, the last game he caught. Well, it's like he got 90 yards the last game. He caught a bunch of passes. How many passes did he catch the last game? Well, 91 receiving yards and caught five passes out of 6 targets, and then he got no targets, or 2 targets. Okay, 2 targets, man. And from what I've read about this game, they worked in the other two tight ends got worked in and caught. Well, as you can see there, Durham Smythe caught a 4-yard touchdown, and Adam Shireen, they got the work, and Mike Gesicki got hardly anything. Yeah, right now, and particularly since Mike Gesicki is going to be on bye this week, I'm probably going to drop him. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the my waiver ads, but yeah, we'll probably drop him. But it wasn't all bad. Robert Woods, good old Mr. Reliable here. He again came through for us. It's not world beating. It's not huge or anything, but he got really close to his projections, and that's more or less what Robert Woods does. 12 points as our flex. That is more than respectable here. Yeah, Robert Woods is great. He lowers my blood pressure. Yeah, Robert Woods is just performing as per usual. We actually picked up Harrison Buckner, if you remember from my last video. Yeah, somebody dropped him, and I think I put like a $1 bid on him. He did all right with 8 points. This game was interesting in that it was raining really bad, and they really leaned on the run game, which was really surprising. Kansas City, that is, really leaned on the run game. instead of passing, which maybe the weather had something to do with it, since it was raining pretty hard. But yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a ton of carries. I think he had close to, like, I want to say somewhere between 25 and 30 carries. He had 160 yards on the ground. He had a touchdown, but it was taken away due to a penalty. But yeah, Harrison Buckner, he did fine. Yeah, he's going to be starting, yeah, until the bye. Depending on how well he does, I'll consider keeping him during the bye, but we'll see about that. The Los Angeles Rams defense, another donut here for our team. Another big contributing factor of why we stunk it up pretty hard this week. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo started this game for San Francisco. He shook off the not so much that he shook off the rust, but they really adjusted their game plan so that they didn't have to rely on him too much. He wasn't taking any deep shots like down the field. He had really quick plays where he'd only be holding the ball for like a couple of seconds, and then be super short passes, like lateral passes. Just really dumbed down but effective, like a simplified but effective game plan, and it worked really well for them during this game. And to my chagrin, to my detriment, not great for the Los Angeles Rams defense, who thankfully only got 0 points and didn't get any negative points here. So, but yeah, this all contributed more or less to this just pathetic, sad performance this week. The Los Angeles defense, Mike Gesicki, and Aaron Rodgers. And as you can see there, Yahoo graded me with an F rank. So yeah, an F grade here. So I'd have to agree with them. But yeah, as far as looking, actually, let's jump into our bench here, because we had some pretty good performances here. I ended up picking up DAndre Swift. Sorry about the last video. I think I was calling him Devonta Swift. I'm really bad with these names. But DAndre Swift really exploded. His usage was the highest it's been all season, and this is coming out of the bye, so I think this is more or less by design here. He had more touches and more carries than Adrian Peterson. Although they were kind of close on carries, he did catch more passes, and he was targeted for more passes than Peterson, which is to be expected because yeah, they never throw to Peterson. But yeah, he did get the highest percentage of the workload for the Detroit Lions during this game, which is really encouraging and super good for us, since this is the first week we had him on our squad. We just picked him up for I believe it was J.K. Dobbins, and apologies for that name right there too. I think I was calling him Josh Dobbins during the last video. So yeah, DAndre Swift, he looks like, we'll see what happens next game. I don't completely trust him yet, but he looks like he could be a solid bench guy here that we could start in a pinch in case of injuries, or yeah, if he starts getting hot. But who also performed, Deebo Samuel caught a touchdown. He looked really good, and he looked tailor-made for the game plan that San Francisco was running for this game. The short passes, very short passes, close to the line of scrimmage. Yeah, his yards after catch, he runs like a running back essentially. He's a wide receiver, but he runs and he's built like a running back. So he did really well for San Francisco this week, and it was a really encouraging performance. So yeah, I'm glad I picked him up as well. We picked him up in place of Zach Moss from last week. Yeah, other than that, Marquis Brown, he did okay. I'm starting to think that maybe I traded away the wrong wide receiver when I made that trade for Nicholas Chubb. We ended up trading Justin Jefferson. I like the upside with Marquis Brown, since Marquis Brown is the number one wide receiver on his team. But right now, Lamar Jackson just isn't passing all that much, and he's not hitting. When he does pass, he's not being very accurate right now. He's not hitting any of his receivers. Like even Mark Andrews has kind of been hit or miss this year. He's been performing under expectations as far as how we felt about him and Marquis Brown during the draft season. So yeah, we ended up trading away Justin Jefferson and Le'Veon for Nick Chubb, thinking that I was getting the better end of the deal by keeping Brown, but maybe, it's still a long season, so we'll see. But, now I'm starting to have those little seeds of doubt that maybe we traded away the wrong receiver, and maybe we should have just traded Marquis Brown like I originally intended to. But anyways, that pretty much goes over my matchup here. Looking over my opponent's players, Vaughn like Donkey Kong, like Patrick Mahomes, 24 points for Patrick Mahomes. That is really low for Patrick Mahomes. So he really gave us an opportunity to win here if we would have been able to put up any points. But yeah, between Aaron Rodgers, the Rams defense, and Mike Gesicki, there was no real hope of that. But anywho, let's go ahead and jump into the league standings here. So with that loss, this is a pretty competitive league as it stands right now. With that loss, it drops me all the way from 1st to 5th place here. As far as my points scored, yeah, it took a huge hit. Before this week, I was at 3rd place as far as total points scored is concerned, but now I am at 5th place. Everybody looking at this league, actually, yeah, it's it's kind of funny. It's almost exactly, we're ranked almost exactly to total points scored. This has been pretty fair so far. Let's go ahead and look ahead a little bit to the waiver wires. I did put in a few claims here. With Aaron Rodgers in mind and those concerns I have with the Green Bay Packers and the holes they have as a team, I'm starting to think that maybe I do want a second quarterback on my squad just in case. Right now I have Carson Wentz. He does have a couple of good matchups coming forward for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And you know what? Just watching him this year and last year, his team is so depleted, but he is a good quarterback. He finds ways to win and finds ways to scramble. And not only him by himself, but he's Coach Peterson is a good coach. They have a solid culture and a solid team there. They're just really banged up and really injured. So I made a claim right now for Carson Wentz, and they should have some of their guys coming back soon. Alshon Jeffries is practicing. Deshaun Watson, I think, is practicing as well. Jalen Reagor, I'm not sure if he's practicing, but there's a chance that he could be coming back soon. Dallas Goedert, there hasn't been any word about his injury, but he is eligible to come off of IR this week. He did lose some weapons this week as well, though. The Eagles did lose some weapons. They lost Miles Sanders, probably won't play this week due to an ankle. I believe it's an ankle sprain. And ankle or knee issue, I don't recall now. But they also did lose Zach Ertz, who is probably going to be going on to IR. So, yeah, as soon, they really need Dallas Goedert to come back. So whenever he could come back, yeah. But as far as the next couple of matchups, I think they're playing New York and maybe the Jets. I'll have to double check that. But they have a pretty cherry matchups for the next couple of weeks. So, and this is the big news for today anyways. The Miami Dolphins benched Fitzmagic. They benched Ryan Fitzpatrick. They just announced it. So Tua Tagovailoa, it is Tua time. He is going to starting not this week because they're on bye, but starting next week when they come back from bye, which is really surprising because Fitzpatrick was doing pretty good. He was doing pretty great. The two games that I watched of him, he did pretty well. And as far as fantasy is concerned, he's been pretty good for like I think all games save for one. So this is a big surprise. But Tua. I think there's a good chance that he could be a good player, and Tua runs a little bit more, and he's supposed to be a really accurate passer as well. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll make a $0 bid for him here since he's on bye, just in case I don't get Carson Wentz. Or you know what, maybe I'll lean more towards Tua, and we'll just see what happens, just as a kind of stash. But let's go ahead and go down the line here. Alshon Jeffrey, in case I don't get any of those two, Alshon Jeffrey again is practicing, so this will be another stash. Alshon, when he's been healthy, he's been a really productive wide receiver. So, and you know, Carson Wentz and the Eagles are really hurting for receivers. So, you know, if he's healthy, he's going to get the work. And you know that it'd be a good time to take a chance on him since he's practicing. And then, you know, here's another one. Rob Gronkowski, during that game, he looked pretty good. And particularly since O.J. Howard is injured and he will not be coming back, you know, he looked good. He looked like he still had that connection with Tom Brady. So as far as rostering two tight ends are concerned, you know, just as a backup in case something happens to Darren Waller, yeah, you know, I wouldn't mind having Gronkowski to see what happens on that team. He looked, you know, the couple of games that I watched of Tampa Bay earlier this year, he looked like he was really struggling. He looked like he was winded during a lot of parts of the game. Certain parts of the game, he looked like he was tired, but not this game. This game, the entire game, he looked great. So maybe he was just shaking up off the rust for the last few games. So yeah, we'll see if we pick him up, but I wouldn't mind putting a flyer on him as well. Let's go ahead and get out of there. And you know, I think that pretty much covers that pretty much covers the recap for this week. Did you win this week? Were you victim to Kenyon Drake's garbage time 100-yard touchdown run? Let me know, comment below. And thanks again so much for watching another episode of Vin Plays Yahoo Fantasy Football, and I'll see you next time.